We're here with Charles Harlan. We're here at Vickery Hardware, which is the store that I guess in some respects you grew up in, yeah? This is the store that your mother owns, your grandfather before that. And it's the oldest continuously owned hardware store, oldest continuously owned store in Cobb County. And a pretty amazing place. Could you talk just a little bit about sort of how this place informs your artistic practice?
Yeah. When I was growing up, I was working here and obviously spent a lot of time here. And for me, a recurring thing that I've found with my own work is having art experiences with non-art objects. So, for example, like walking around the streets of Brooklyn or working here or even just walking around any hardware store, just seeing items and materials that to me have like an art quality or a sculptural quality. Like for example, even these like these parts of a screen that they're working on here, like this is a nice minimalist object right here even in itself. So that's kind of a way I would describe my practice, is sort of having art experiences with non-art objects and trying to sort of translate that into an art context, which is kind of a long way of saying that I just grew up around this stuff and make art about it.
Do you see it as a transformation from, object from a hardware store to object of fine art, or do you see no sort of...
Well, I think that's kind of the whole question of the idea of the ready-made to begin with, is where is that moment of transformation? And that's why those kind of materials have become sort of an institutional critique in a way, because like, does any object become an artwork just by bringing it into a gallery or museum? To me, that is less of a question. For me, it's just more about an experience with an object in like sort of an art space in my mind. So for example, the piece I'm going to be showing at the Contemporary Center was a tree growing through a fence that I took from just right in the backyard of the hardware store, and it's a beautiful object. And I pass those things walking around my neighborhood in Brooklyn all the time, and whether I see it in an art gallery after it's been installed or whether I see it out on the street, to me it's just as powerful of an object. And that experience, I guess, isn't dependent on its exact context.
Okay. Do you talked about Brooklyn, where you live now. We talked a little bit about Smyrna, and we talked before about how you like to go to upstate New York. Do you feel like your artistic practice or the way that you think about art or think about the work that you're going to make changes when you get outside of the city, or do you feel like one needs the other, the city and the country?
That's a good question. I spend a lot of time going upstate to go fishing, or I have a few friends that have property up there. And at a certain point, when you do live in a large city, just to keep sane, you have to get out of it from time to time. For me, I haven't spent much time living outside of the city since I've been living there, so my work is very informed by the urban environment that I'm in because of that experience I have while just encountering objects and turning them into art. But I do know that if and when I do get out of the city, and when I do spend long amounts of time upstate or here, I do draw a lot of inspiration from more rural settings or even the suburban settings. So I think that I've yet to explore that. Once I get out of New York City for an extended period of time, which I think will be in my future, I'll be able to explore that. But I think that is definitely, something that informs my work.
Mm-hmm. You touched on fishing. Fishing from the shore or on a boat?
Well, it depends what type of fishing you're doing. But
which do you prefer?
Yeah. Well, I often have better success from a boat because you can get to where the fish are quicker. but there's not much that beats hiking around like a lake or a stream, sight fishing for trout or bass or something like that. So I guess I'd have to say from the shore.
Atlanta Braves or Cobb County Braves?
That's a really hard question because I'm a big fan of the team since I was a kid watching Greg Maddux. And, you know, they say they're doing it because they'll be able to make money, which means they'll be able to sign better players, which means they'll be able to win more, which I like as a fan. But as, you know, somebody from this area, I feel like they are the Atlanta Braves. They belong in Atlanta. And, you know, the just sort of like encouraging growth within inner cities is something I'm interested in as someone who lives in a large city, which I think the Braves could do better in Atlanta and could have done better by maybe moving somewhere else in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, it's not going to be too far from my mom's hardware store, so I'm hoping maybe in some way the move will help the business around here for her.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Charles. Thanks for taking the time today. And yeah, the show opens in a couple weeks on February 4th, and we hope that you guys can make it out. We hope to see you at the Atlanta Contemporary soon. Thank you.